What happens to your health when you have sex less than once a week? Did you know that having sex less than once a week could raise your risk of death by up to 70%? That's not just clickbait, it's real science. Researchers from prestigious institutions like the University of Pittsburgh and Harvard have found strong correlations between sexual activity and overall mortality. Why? Because sex isn't just about pleasure or intimacy. It's tied to powerful biological responses, stress regulation, hormone balance, cardiovascular health, and even sleep quality. Imagine this: two people the same age, same lifestyle, but one has an active sex life and the other doesn't. One of them could live significantly longer. It's shocking, but your bedroom habits might be quietly dictating how long you live and how well you live. If you're someone who cares about living longer, living better, and truly understanding your body, then this video is a must-watch. Tap that like button right now if you've ever been surprised by the science behind sex. Share this with a friend or partner. It could genuinely change a life. And don't forget to subscribe for weekly videos that reveal the hidden science of health, sex, and self-mastery. Drop a comment below. How often do you think is healthy when it comes to sex? Introduction: Sex and Health, a hidden link. When people think about sex, they often reduce it to pleasure, reproduction, or emotional intimacy. But here's something most doctors don't tell you during your checkup. Sex is one of the most underutilized tools in preventive medicine. That's right. Regular, satisfying sexual activity can boost your immune system, stabilize your hormones, reduce inflammation, and even decrease your risk of certain cancers. Experts like Dr. Michael Roizen from the Cleveland Clinic and sex therapist Dr. Lori Mintz have repeatedly emphasized the medical power of sex. In today's video, we're going to explore the invisible but vital connection between your sex life and your health span. Why do some couples seem to age slower? Why do people in passionate relationships often report less stress and fewer hospital visits? What role does orgasm play in flushing out cortisol and regulating blood pressure? And why is sexual frequency emerging as a new biomarker for aging? You're about to discover stories from real patients, deep insights from psychology and physiology, and surprising data from studies conducted over decades. By the end of this episode, you might start seeing sex not just as a form of connection, but as a cornerstone of lifelong wellness. Let's get into it. Part 1. Scientific evidence and deep dive study. Number 1. Sexual frequency and risk of death. What the numbers really mean. Let's begin with a landmark study that has shaken the medical and wellness community. Published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, this comprehensive research pulled data from over 15,000 American adults as part of the well-respected National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, NANES. This wasn't some quick questionnaire. This was a longitudinal analysis spanning more than a decade, 2005 to 2016, tracking not just people's health outcomes, but also how frequently they engaged in vaginal or anal sex over a 12-month period. But the results? Absolutely eye-opening. Key findings: adults who reported having sex 52 times or more per year, equivalent to at least once a week, experienced a 49% lower risk of death from all causes. When it came to cancer-related deaths, the impact was even more dramatic. These individuals saw a 69% reduction in the risk of dying from cancer compared to those who had sex less than once a year. Interestingly, even those in the moderate category, engaging in sex between 2 to 51 times a year, still saw a 36% drop in overall mortality. These numbers are more than just statistics. They're life-changing insights. Let's break it down. Why does frequent sex matter so much? According to Dr. Jennifer Landa, an expert in integrative sexual medicine, sexual activity is one of the most holistic forms of exercise you can engage in. It activates the cardiovascular system, releases feel-good hormones like oxytocin and dopamine, and supports healthy immune function. It's not just about intimacy, it's about biology. In simpler terms, sex is not just fun or bonding, it's a physiological workout. Think about it. Your heart rate goes up, blood circulation improves, muscles engage, and your brain floods with chemicals that reduce stress and promote cellular repair. Now imagine doing that weekly, over years. That's not just maintenance, it's medicine. Real-life scenario. Take Mark, a 54-year-old accountant from Chicago who participated in a lifestyle change program. After years of high stress, poor sleep, and borderline hypertension, he was advised to not only change his diet, but also rekindle intimacy with his spouse. Within 6 months of increasing his sexual activity to once a week, his blood pressure improved, his stress markers dropped, and he reported better sleep and mood. His doctor even reduced his medication dose. Coincidence? Not likely. But what about the skeptics? Some critics argue that people who have more sex might already be healthier, more active, and in loving relationships, which could explain the lower death rates. And that's partly true. But researchers controlled for variables like income, marital status, BMI, and even exercise levels. The correlation still held strong. In other words, sex itself appears to have an independent protective effect. Biological commentary. Frequent ejaculation is linked to lower prostate cancer risk, especially in men over 40. Orgasms reduce cortisol levels, your primary stress hormone, which in turn supports your immune system and heart health. Sex promotes better sleep, which is directly tied to longevity. Just one night of good sleep boosts natural killer cell activity by 30%. So what does this mean for you? If you've been treating sex as an optional part of life, something that only happens when the mood is perfect, you might be ignoring a natural tool for disease prevention and long-term vitality. This study, and many others we'll explore, make one thing clear: frequency matters, not just for emotional fulfillment, but for survival. And this is just the beginning. In the next section, we'll look at how sex impacts your immune system, your hormones, and your brain, and why skipping out could be more harmful than you ever imagined. Part 2. Sex, Depression, and Longevity. The hidden mental health connection. In 2024, researchers from Walden University made waves in the mental health and medical communities with a groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Psychosexual Health. Unlike many previous studies that focused only on physical health, this research dared to explore a more complex, deeply intertwined relationship: how sexual activity and depression interact to impact mortality. And the findings? Absolutely staggering. Study overview. This follow-up study analyzed a diverse sample of over 14,500 adults across various age groups, ethnicities, and backgrounds. Every participant completed the Patient Health Questionnaire 9, PHQ-9, a clinically validated tool widely used by psychologists and physicians to measure depression severity. At the same time, researchers documented the participants' sexual activity over a 12-month period. Key insights you can't ignore. Women who had sex less than once a week were found to have a 70% higher risk of dying than those who had sex weekly or more. That's nearly doubling your risk just by lack of intimacy. But here's the bombshell. People who were both sexually inactive and clinically depressed had a 200% higher risk of death compared to those who were depressed but still sexually active. Most surprisingly, depressed individuals who maintained an active sex life had a similar risk of dying as those without depression at all. Expert opinion, according to Dr. Susan Reynolds, a leading psychosexual therapist, this data validates what we've long suspected. Sexual activity isn't just about pleasure, it's a form of emotional regulation. For people battling depression, especially chronic or moderate cases, sexual intimacy can create physiological feedback loops that break cycles of isolation, self-doubt, and stress. Real-life example. Let's consider the case of Maya, a 38-year-old single mother diagnosed with clinical depression in 2022. After therapy, she was encouraged to explore ways to naturally enhance her dopamine levels. She shared that regular, consensual sexual intimacy with her partner not only improved her mood, but also gave her a sense of connection, touch, and comfort she couldn't get from medication alone. Within 6 months, her PHQ-9 scores improved from severe to mild, and she reported better energy, sleep, and even job satisfaction. Physiological and psychological mechanisms. What happens inside you? So, what is it about sex that has such a profound effect, not only on mental state, but on life expectancy? 1. Hormonal harmony. During sex, your brain releases endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, a powerful cocktail of natural feel-good chemicals. These regulate mood, decrease cortisol, the stress hormone, and create feelings of emotional safety and pleasure. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, is especially crucial in battling loneliness and emotional detachment, a common symptom of depression. 2. Cardiovascular support. Depression is closely tied to heart disease, but sex offers a buffer. Regular sexual activity improves heart rate variability, enhances vascular dilation, and promotes healthy blood flow, which all contribute to lower blood pressure and reduced risk of heart-related conditions. 3. Immune boosting. Multiple studies show that sexual intimacy can increase levels of immunoglobulin A, IgA, an antibody that fights off illness. People in sexually active relationships also report fewer colds, faster recovery times, and better resistance to infection, a crucial factor for those whose immune systems may already be compromised by depression. 4. Mental resilience and self-esteem. One often overlooked benefit of sex is how it rebuilds self-worth. For people with depression, especially those dealing with body image issues, low self-confidence, or past trauma, the affirmation and vulnerability that come with sex can validate their worth and restore a sense of agency. The psychological grounding that comes from being seen, touched, and desired cannot be underestimated. 5. Sleep pain and energy regulation. After orgasm, the body releases prolactin, a hormone associated with relaxation and deep sleep. Better sleep contributes directly to hormonal stability and mood regulation. Furthermore, studies suggest that orgasms increase the release of endorphins and enkephalins, natural painkillers that raise your pain threshold, which is often lowered in people with chronic depression. Analytical takeaway. So what can we conclude from all of this? The Walden University study doesn't just show that sex reduces depression or boosts mood. It shows that sexual activity could be acting as a protective biological mechanism, shielding depressed individuals from the worst long-term health outcomes. This positions sex not as a luxury or emotional afterthought, but as a key pillar of holistic mental health care. If you or someone you love is struggling with depression, know this: medication and therapy are crucial, but ignoring the intimate, sensual side of health may be leaving healing potential on the table. Sexual connection, when healthy and consensual, is not indulgence, it's resilience. Part 3. Real-life case study: Love, Longevity, and the Science of Intimacy. When it comes to longevity, we often think of diet, exercise, genetics, or access to healthcare. But there's a growing body of evidence suggesting that emotional intimacy and sexual connection may be just as critical, especially in long-term relationships. In fact, a fascinating long-term study by Duke University researchers has put this concept under the microscope, revealing that couples who remain sexually active into later life often enjoy significantly better cardiovascular health, sharper cognitive function, and greater overall life satisfaction. Study insights. This multi-decade study followed hundreds of married couples across several stages of life, from their 40s into their 70s and beyond. Researchers found a clear, consistent pattern. Those who reported regular sexual intimacy, not just physical touch, but deep emotional connection as well, experienced lower rates of heart disease, fewer signs of dementia, and even reduced need for antidepressants and pain medication in old age. And here's the kicker: the health benefits were most pronounced in couples who had been married for decades, suggesting that the accumulative effect of emotional closeness, physical touch, and mutual support compounds over time. Like a long-term investment in well-being. The 45-year married couple, a real-life example. One particularly inspiring story emerged from a couple who had been married for over 45 years. Now in their late 70s, they reported that they maintained a rhythm of weekly intimacy, not as a chore, not driven by obligation, but as a ritual of connection, comfort, and joy. In interviews, the couple described their intimacy as the secret sauce of their relationship, not just in sustaining love, but in supporting their physical and emotional vitality. The husband, who had previously struggled with high blood pressure in his 50s, noted that his condition improved significantly after he and his wife prioritized emotional bonding and regular sex. The wife described feeling mentally sharper and more emotionally grounded, attributing much of her cognitive health to the consistency of affection, touch, and open communication in their relationship. Expert commentary. According to Dr. James Carter, a geriatric psychiatrist and longevity researcher, it's not surprising. Sex, especially in older adults, can stimulate the release of hormones like oxytocin, which is not just a bonding hormone, but also a powerful anti-inflammatory agent. Inflammation is a key driver of aging, so when we reduce it through consistent physical and emotional intimacy, we may literally slow down the clock. He also points out that physical closeness activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest, digestion, and recovery. That's particularly valuable as we age, because the body becomes less efficient at managing stress and healing. In other words, being close to someone you love isn't just sweet, it's survival. Longevity in the blue zones, more than just diet and genes. This phenomenon isn't limited to scientific labs or Western societies. In blue zones, regions around the world known for their unusually high concentration of centenarians, like Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, and Nicoya, Costa Rica, researchers consistently find that emotional intimacy, community bonding, and regular sexual activity play a critical role in people living long, healthy lives. In Sardinia, for example, it's common to see elderly couples still holding hands, flirting, and engaging in tender physical gestures. Many couples in these communities openly admit that sex doesn't stop after 60, it just becomes more meaningful. In interviews with centenarians, many point to emotional closeness, affectionate touch, and feeling desired as the main drivers behind their optimism and resilience. A cultural shift in perspective. Despite all this, Western culture often stigmatizes or outright ignores the sexuality of older adults. But this needs to change. Intimacy should not be viewed as something that disappears with age. As Dr. Lori Mintz, a sex therapist and professor at the University of Florida, puts it, the ability to give and receive pleasure, love, and closeness is part of being human at every stage of life. Dismissing it in older adults isn't just ageist, it's dangerous. We're ignoring a tool that promotes both emotional and physical longevity. The bigger message, the takeaway here isn't just about sex, it's about emotional investment. Whether it's through physical intimacy, heartfelt conversations, shared laughter, or simply showing up for each other week after week, long-term couples who make connection a priority are also building a biological shield around their health. They're not just aging, they're aging gracefully, with energy, clarity, and love still intact. The intimacy puzzle. This case study, backed by science and real-life anecdotes, is a clear sign that regular intimacy, especially in long-term relationships, isn't a luxury, it's a health habit. And it's one that's deeply intertwined with your emotional brain, cardiovascular system, and even cognitive longevity. Part 4. Expert opinions. What leading doctors and scientists say about sex and longevity. When it comes to your health, fitness, and longevity, most people turn to things like green smoothies, cardio workouts, or cutting carbs. But what if one of the most powerful science-backed health boosters wasn't in a gym or a pharmacy, but in your bedroom? According to some of the world's most respected medical professionals and researchers, regular satisfying sexual activity may be one of the most underrated contributors to long life, emotional well-being, and physical health. Dr. David Weeks, sexual activity is the most important contributor to longevity. Let's start with Dr. David Weeks, a clinical neuropsychologist at the Royal Edinburgh Hospital, and author of the widely cited book, Secrets of the Super Young. After 2 decades of research, interviewing more than 3,500 men and women aged 18 to 102, Dr. Weeks concluded something extraordinary. An active sex life is the single most important lifestyle factor contributing to how young you look and feel. According to Weeks, individuals who had frequent and fulfilling sex, roughly 3 times a week or more, appeared 7 to 12 years younger than their actual age, based on both physical appearance and psychological assessments. That's right, no Botox, no anti-aging cream, just good old-fashioned intimacy. But it's not just about looks. Dr. Weeks emphasizes that sex acts like a biological rejuvenator. It boosts blood circulation, enhances skin oxygenation, reduces stress hormones like cortisol, triggers the release of youth-enhancing chemicals such as growth hormone and DHEA. He even observed improved memory function, stronger immune response, and better emotional balance in participants who reported consistent sexual activity over the years. Real-life commentary. In his interviews, one 68-year-old woman said, "I've never used anti-aging products. I just stayed happily married and sexually active. That was my youth serum." Another 72-year-old man reported fewer illnesses and faster recovery times after romantic weekends with his wife, even in his later years. Dr. Lori Mintz, The Emotional and Psychological Power of Sex. Another leading expert, Dr. Lori Mintz, a psychologist, sex therapist, and professor at the University of Florida, emphasizes the psychological shield sex provides, especially in the context of long-term relationships. She explains that in an age of chronic stress, digital distractions, and emotional disconnection, intimacy functions as a stabilizing force in our mental landscape. According to Dr. Mintz, sexual connection provides an emotional anchor that reduces the psychological toll of daily stressors. It fosters oxytocin-fueled bonding, lowers anxiety, and helps regulate mood, similar to how antidepressants work, but without the side effects. She also warns that neglecting intimacy can silently erode relationships and emotional well-being, particularly among couples raising children, managing careers, or dealing with aging. Her clinical work shows that couples who maintain regular intimacy, even just once a week, are less likely to experience marital dissatisfaction, depression, or burnout. Sex and heart health. A surprising endorsement from the American Heart Association. If you think sex is too risky for your heart, think again. Even the American Heart Association, AHA, one of the most cautious and conservative voices in the medical world, endorses sex as not only safe but beneficial for cardiovascular health, especially for people with stable heart conditions. Their 2021 scientific statement emphasized that for the majority of individuals, sexual activity is a form of moderate physical exercise, which can improve cardiovascular endurance, lower blood pressure, and improve vascular health. Regular sex may lower risk of ischemic heart disease and stroke, thanks to improved circulation and hormonal balance. The emotional closeness that comes with sex also helps regulate stress levels, reducing the likelihood of stress-induced heart events. Additional perspectives from the medical community. Dr. Michael Crickman, an OBGYN and sexual health expert, believes sexual activity should be considered part of preventive healthcare. He states, "When we talk about healthy aging, we should be talking about sex, just as much as we talk about exercise or nutrition. The physiological benefits are profound, and the emotional dividends are priceless." In fact, more and more wellness clinics are incorporating sexual wellness counseling into their longevity programs, offering hormone panels, intimacy coaching, and even pelvic floor training to help clients maintain intimacy well into their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Expert consensus. Sex is not a luxury, it's a lifestyle medicine across the board, from neurologists and psychologists to cardiologists and endocrinologists. The message is becoming increasingly clear. Sexual activity is not merely a pleasure, it's a vital sign. It reflects the state of your emotional health, your physical stamina, your hormonal balance, and even your sense of self-worth. It's also a feedback loop. The healthier and more connected you are, the more you're likely to desire intimacy, and the more intimacy you experience, the healthier and more connected you become. In just the last decade, science has rapidly reshaped our understanding of what it means to live a long, vibrant life. And now we're learning that a fulfilling sex life might not just be the icing on the cake of well-being, but a key ingredient in the recipe itself. Coming up, we'll wrap up with a summary of everything we've uncovered so far and reveal practical tips on how you can apply this knowledge to improve your health, happiness, and even the length of your life starting today. Timeline breakdown. What happens to your mind and body when you stop having sex? Let's now break things down week by week, month by month. What really happens when you go without sex for an extended period of time? We're not just talking about libido or desire. We're talking about hormonal shifts, brain chemistry, immunity, emotional resilience, even how well your heart and mind age over time. This timeline gives a realistic, research-informed view of how abstaining from intimacy, voluntarily or involuntarily, can shape your mental, emotional, and physical health. Week 1 without sex at first, changes may seem subtle, but under the surface, your body is already reacting. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, begins to decline. This hormone is released during physical intimacy, especially orgasm, and plays a vital role in emotional closeness, trust, and attachment. Mood changes. Many people report feeling slightly more irritable, less emotionally vibrant, or even lonely. That post-sex calm and connection, it's missing. Sleep quality can dip as oxytocin and prolactin, both released after sex, are tied to deeper, more restorative sleep. Expert insight. According to Dr. Debbie Herbenick, a sex researcher at Indiana University, even 1 week without intimacy may subtly affect stress levels and interpersonal sensitivity, especially for people in relationships who are used to regular contact. 1 month without sex. At the 1 month mark, things become more noticeable. Stress hormones such as cortisol begin to increase. Without the regular dopamine and endorphin boost from sexual activity, your body has fewer ways to regulate daily stress. Irritability and emotional fatigue may increase, especially in those already juggling work, family, or emotional challenges. Reduced libido. Ironically, the less sex you have, the less your body may want it. Testosterone production in both men and women can dip slightly due to decreased sexual stimulation. Relationship distance. Partners may begin to feel emotionally disconnected or misaligned, even if the underlying relationship is strong. Psychological perspective. Dr. Ian Kerner, a psychotherapist and sex counselor, explains, when couples stop having sex, they often lose not just physical closeness, but also a key method of nonverbal communication and emotional repair. 3 to 6 months without sex. At this point, physiological and emotional consequences begin to intensify. Immune function may decline. Multiple studies show that regular sexual activity, 1 to 2 times a week, is associated with higher levels of immunoglobulin A, IgA, a key antibody that fights off infections. Without it, you may get sick more often. Mood and mental health may suffer. In sensitive individuals, especially those prone to anxiety or depression, prolonged sexual inactivity can lead to emotional numbness or depressive symptoms. The lack of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin contributes to this shift. Sleep disturbances and even low energy during the day are reported more frequently. Performance anxiety and sexual self-doubt can begin to emerge. People start questioning their desirability or physical worth, especially if their period of abstinence isn't voluntary. Case study. Spotlight. A 2022 longitudinal study from Stanford University tracked 1,800 adults over 18 months. It found that those who went 6 months or more without sexual activity were 35% more likely to report symptoms of depression and 23% more likely to feel chronically isolated, even when accounting for social support and relationship status. 1 year without sex. Now we reach the long-term horizon, 12 months or more. Cardiovascular health may begin to show signs of strain. Lack of regular arousal and orgasm is associated with higher resting blood pressure and reduced nitric oxide levels, both of which are crucial for heart health. Risk of erectile dysfunction or vaginal atrophy may increase due to lack of blood flow and hormonal stimulation in the genital area, especially in people over 40. Emotional intimacy in relationships can degrade significantly. Many couples who stop being sexually active struggle to regain their rhythm. It often takes therapy, deliberate reconnection, and rebuilding of trust to reintroduce intimacy after long-term abstinence. Self-esteem issues may intensify. Prolonged celibacy, particularly when not by choice, can lead to feelings of inadequacy, invisibility, or disconnection from one's own body. Neurological insight. Dr. Nicole Prouse, a neuroscientist studying sexual behavior, warns, "Our brains are wired for intimacy. When that wiring goes unused for extended periods, it can impact everything from sleep regulation to emotional balance to cognitive performance." Bottom line, consistency over quantity. This doesn't mean you need to have sex every day, or even multiple times per week. But what the science and real-world evidence suggest is this: consistency in intimacy, especially once a week or more, helps maintain a biochemical and emotional balance that supports immune function, cardiovascular health, mental well-being, and relationship stability. In other words, sexual connection acts like a reset button for your entire system. It's not just about pleasure, it's about performance, protection, and peace of mind. If these insights gave you a new perspective, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Subscribe for more science-backed health breakdowns. And most importantly, comment below. What's your take on the link between sex and health? Have you experienced any changes during periods of sexual inactivity? Let's create a real conversation in the comments. Conclusion: sex isn't just about pleasure, it's a tool for longevity. So after diving deep into science, stories, and expert opinions, what have we really uncovered? The truth is both ancient and cutting edge. Sexual intimacy isn't just a biological urge, it's a fundamental pillar of long-term health. Let's break this down one last time and go even deeper into why it matters. 1. Regular sex is linked to a longer, healthier life. Numerous studies over the past 2 decades have shown that people who have regular sex, especially in emotionally fulfilling relationships, live longer. But it's not just about the quantity of life, it's about quality. A study published in the British Medical Journal revealed that men who had orgasms twice a week were 50% less likely to die from all causes compared to those with less frequent sexual activity. Women, too, benefit deeply. Regular intimacy is linked to lower risks of breast cancer, better hormonal balance, and increased pain tolerance. Cardiologists from NYU Langone even claim that sex, when done regularly, acts like a mini cardio workout, enhancing blood flow, strengthening the heart, and supporting metabolic health. This isn't an old wives' tale, it's a biological truth. The body responds positively to love, touch, and climax, releasing waves of dopamine, oxytocin, and even natural growth hormones that rejuvenate tissues and fight off aging. 2. Sex is nature's antidepressant and a mental health ally. We often talk about antidepressants, meditation, or self-care routines, but sex is perhaps the most natural form of emotional recalibration we have. Physical intimacy triggers the release of endorphins and serotonin, which directly elevate mood and decrease anxiety. Oxytocin, known as the cuddle hormone, promotes feelings of trust and security, lowering stress and deepening emotional bonds, especially critical in long-term partnerships. Psychologist Dr. Lori Brotto found that women with a satisfying sex life had lower rates of depressive symptoms, better sleep, and higher life satisfaction, even in the face of external stressors like work or financial pressure. Even if you're not currently in a sexual relationship, the absence of intimacy can still be felt deeply. That's why mental health professionals now emphasize the importance of human touch, cuddling, emotional closeness, and self-intimacy as part of holistic wellness. 3. Sex balances more than just hormones. It balances life. When we talk about health, we usually focus on what we eat or how often we exercise. But here's the twist. Your sex life can act as a mirror, reflecting how connected you are to your body, your partner, and even your purpose. A regular sex life encourages better communication, improved conflict resolution, and stronger emotional resilience in couples. It also acts as a neurological regulator, keeping the brain sharp, the nervous system in balance, and even boosting immunity through better stress regulation. According to Dr. Laura Berman, when sex is missing, it's rarely just about sex. It often signals disconnection, unresolved tension, or misaligned values in a relationship. So yes, intimacy is emotional. It's chemical, it's spiritual, and above all, it's foundational. This isn't about pressure, it's about permission. Let's be clear, this isn't about shaming or pressuring anyone into a particular lifestyle. Celibacy, abstinence, or periods of reduced intimacy are completely valid and natural phases of life. But what this video is saying is that connection matters. If you're in a relationship, let this be a gentle nudge to prioritize your partner, not just with physical touch, but with emotional presence. Don't let routine kill romance. If you're single, think about how physical connection, sexual or otherwise, fits into your mental and physical health plan. Whether it's massage therapy, mindful touch, or self-exploration, intimacy is still a language your body understands and benefits from. And if you're struggling, you're not alone. Therapy, communication, and sexual education are powerful tools to rebuild or rediscover intimacy at any age. Final takeaway, sex is more than pleasure, it's preservation. When we zoom out, one truth becomes clear. A healthy sex life is not a luxury. It's a longevity strategy. It keeps your hormones in balance. It sharpens your mind and strengthens your heart. It fosters emotional intimacy that acts as an anchor during life's storms. And it reminds us, in the most primal way, that we are alive. In a world increasingly disconnected by stress, screens, and speed, intentional intimacy is a rebellion and a return to balance. You've just uncovered one of the most overlooked secrets to long life and emotional fulfillment. If this resonated with you, like this video to support more honest conversations about health. Comment below. How has sex or intimacy influenced your well-being, positively or negatively? Share this with someone who needs this message. And don't forget to subscribe for more science-based, life-enhancing breakdowns every week. Until next time, take care of your body, your heart, and your connection to others. Because at the end of the day, that's where real longevity begins.